Welcome to each and every one of you. Today we're going to be covering Xayah, and now the point of this video, the reason why I made it is because I want to make you a better Xayah player by the end of it, and also give you a better understanding of the champion as a whole by the end of this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lofit. I do educational content, I do tips videos, guide videos, and I also stream here on YouTube if you want to be checking that out. Also, I heavily value you guys' time, so I always have timestamps at the top of my page at every single point of my video, letting you know when to, if you want to skip the intro, if you want to skip to the next tip, you can go there. If you already know the tip that I'm going to be covering, I heavily encourage you guys to bounce around to get the most out of your time when you are here on my page. Also, you can contact me directly if you have any questions, either here in the comment section. I'm going to put a link to my Discord in the pinned comments. Also, if you want to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell button and be notified when I go live and I stream here on YouTube, you can do that, and I will we can have a little chat about Xayah or bot lane matchups. I'd love to do that with you when I go live in the stream. Also, finally, I really want to talk to you guys about an important thing that I start seeing with these videos and I love to see, and that is when you add your own tips down below, because that is great and it kind of creates a forum where a lot of people pick up more tips from the comment section than they got from the video. I remember there was this one video I made and someone just wrote out like a page of tips, and it just really helped out a lot of people. It had more likes than my video, but I really enjoyed that person put so much time into that. So if you have a lot of tips about Xayah, I heavily encourage you to put those down below. All right, and with all that out of the way, let's get into the first tip. Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to my first tip, and we are going to go over something that I think is extremely important when you are playing Xayah, and that is to understand where she can really thrive in certain situations and how her kit works out. I am pretty sure that you all know that you are basically putting down feathers with a lot of your abilities, and you are able to call them back to get a root and to deal a bunch of damage to people. So how you can look to use the terrain to your advantage is by fighting people in very condensed corridors. Whenever you have a champion that has a decent amount of AoE, you always want to look for condensed areas where you can be dealing a lot of damage, because you're going to be putting out a huge amount if you're able to hit several people with different things. So what this means is if you're going even, or if you're farther ahead, you want to be working around objectives when they come up when you are playing Xayah. And if they have an Infernal Drake up, like it's about to spawn right here, you want to look to contest them on ramps in areas like this that are just going to be very conducive for your kit. And obviously up here, these ramps are going to be great as well for setting up those extremely large blade collars, and then also understanding that you do have a little bit of an older kit. People really understand what Xayah is looking to do, so if you want to flash and kind of get a different angle on things, that can be a really effective way to catch people off guard, as well as maybe just using a movement speed increase to get a really quick blade collar in the correct direction that you want. And that will wrap up tip number 1. Okay, and jumping into tip number 2, I want to talk about a really basic trading pattern that you can look to use when you are playing Xayah, and that is Lethal Tempo is a must, I think, in my opinion, for Xayah right now. I think it has a 98 or 99% usage rate on pro builds when people are playing Xayah, and that's because it's so easily procced from a rather long range away with the Q, and then you're able to wait for it to spawn up, and then when it goes up, you're able to add it with your W and just stack an immense amount of feathers behind the enemy. And this is going to cause two different things. First, they're either going to run away because they realize, hey, Xayah has a lot of consistent damage and a lot of feathers are right behind me, so I need to move away from him. What that's going to do is you're going to be able to auto them a couple times when they are just looking to run, and you will overall win out on that trade. The second thing is going to happen is that they aren't going to respect your feathers, and they're going to turn on you, and they are going to try and fight you on a one-on-one situation. What you want to do when they do that is mirror their movements. If they go to the right, you want to start moving to the right as well, and so you can stack feathers in that way and just follow their path, because Xayah is really a queen of just kind of getting people to overextend a little bit in these trades, and then calling back a bunch of feathers with her blade collar and catching them a root, and then setting up easy CC for your support allied champion to follow up on. So look for these strong windows of power when you have your Lethal Tempo and Deadly Plumage available, as well as your blade collar, and really punish them if they overextend or if they run away. Take those couple of free autos, and that will wrap up tip number 2. All right, and getting into tip number 3, I want to talk about how you can use your kit in both an offensive and a defensive way, because I find a way to just get better at a champion is to better understand it in a way where you're able to use it in different scenarios. And this is really greatly just a great example with Xayah with the E and the R and how you can use them in 2 different ways. So with the R, there are a lot of times where you might be able to secure a kill by flashing in with your R and then getting off a really nice and easy blade color with all the feathers that are going to be jumped down. And then as well as if something like, say this champion is a Z right here and he looks to W and R in, you can just R backwards, and if he follows up you can use your root color in that way. So these abilities are both used in both an offensive and a defensive way. How you want to look to pre-plan your team fights is be like, hey, last team fight, I got one shot by that Fizz. He absolutely destroyed me. I wasn't able to get off my R quick enough and they just jumped on me and I died. That means that you need to be using your cooldowns in a different situation, in a different way than how you used it in the previous fight. Maybe you use your blade collar offensively, but you really did need to use it defensively. As you are a strong, consistent damage champion, you do not have to rely exclusively on Feather Storm for damage. You might want to use it more as an escape tool or a defensive tool when you're in situations where you're the primary focus. So always look to use your tools in different ways depending on what the game state currently is, and this will make you a more well-rounded player. You're not one of those people that either they get absolutely stomped or they just absolutely stomp the enemies. Kind of finding a place where you're able to be a little bit more, maybe you do extremely well and then sometimes you're just playing like an average player. It will be a lot better, and this is exemplified by people that maybe that you have a friend that always builds offensive items all the time and he only is focused on offense. The best places that person can learn and to become a more rounded player is to learn to be defensive at points that it makes sense. So you really want to start applying that to your play. If you have any questions about this, you can hit me up in the comments down below, and that will wrap up this tip. All right, and jumping into tip number 4, I want to talk a little bit about different game states and when you would want to take Xayah into a very a strong optimal pick. With how her blade color works and how her just deadly plumage and consistent damage works, is she is extremely good with champions that can set up CC and can allow you to get several more feathers behind the enemy champion before they have the time to move out of the way of an extremely strong blade color. That's why her and Rakan work really well, is because Rakan has 2 different types of CC. Xayah also works extremely well with things like Leona, things like Braum, things like Nautilus that can really just set up your kit. So be cognizant of that when you have a lane partner. I would say the least optimal picks would be something like playing it with like a Brand or a Xerath, where there isn't too much synergy between the 2 champions. So just be a bit mindful of that when you are playing Xayah. And if you are one of those people that have found a duo partner, maybe you main Xayah and your duo partner is a Rakan player, to make sure duos can have a really big problem that I've found with a couple of sessions of coaching that I've done, and that have been, they always say, oh, our team are so bad, that's the reason why we're not able to win. We always win bot lane. We win bot lane 80-90% of the games. This is a really toxic way to look at the game. You should always be looking on how to improve yourself and what you can do better to climb, because that's how people have climbed out of your elo. That's how people are climbing out of your elo right now, and that is focusing on themselves. Your teammates are never going to change. It'd be like trying to change the tides and the weather outside. It is not going to work. They're going to remain consistently as good as the elo as they're in, and that they're always pulled from the same bucket of players. Both your enemy and your allied players are pulled from the same bucket of players. So if you have a duo partner right now, only focus on yourselves, what you can do better, how you can synergize better with each other, and there is always room and improvement. Even in the top 100 or 200 players, there's always room for improvement, and do not blame other players for what elo you are in currently. And that will wrap up tip number 4. Okay, and getting into the final tip, with Xayah's overall kit, she is about a mid-range ADC. She doesn't have the longest range, so she is putting herself in a tough position. And how you want to look to really augment this and kind of shore up some of the weaknesses of the shorter range ADC is by being a very on the move type of player when you are doing it. Be very active with your orb walking, and if you don't know what orb walking is, it is just basically making sure that you are doing a movement command in between the downtime of your auto attacks, making it a lot harder for the enemies to track and to keep up with you, particularly if you have a lot of allies with slows. If you're constantly on the move, it is going to be harder for those enemies to get to you when they are slowed, and you are constantly building space between yourself and the enemy divers. This is going to come with time. You will get better with it as you become more experienced, as long as you continue to practice it and to start using your abilities in a way that you are able to augment your orb walking. Say a ZW's in, that is when you want to look to use your blade collar. Say he R's, then you want to R out and kind of match your abilities to what you see coming in front of you to kill you, and using those abilities in the absolute correct manner. But again, just you always want to keep moving and to start understanding cooldowns and different windows of power that are going on in the team fight. Examples of strong windows of powers: when Zed has his ult and ignite and he's ready to jump on top of you, that is when he is really strong. When he is really weak is when he has his W and his ult down, he has no mobility to get to you, and you still have your blade collar up. This is when you can start to look to move forward on him. But just get really comfortable with moving or inserting a movement command between your autos, and this will start paying off dividends extremely quickly as you are able to kite people out in an extremely good way. All right, that will wrap up my final tip, guys. If you have any questions for me, you can hit me up in the comments down below, and as always, take it easy.